Hello, welcome to another episode of Talking Heads. I'm the host, Lee UHF, and today we are introducing to you some of the artists that have featured tracks on the Heads Up album from Neuroheadz. We have got Jestah, Transforma, and Stonx going to be live online with us today to interview and talk about what's going on in their world and obviously in the Neuroheadz world. So without further ado, let's get into the first interview.
It's a wicked, wicked world out here.
Okay, and for the next guest on this Neuroheadz session, we've got the Stonx Music Boys, Ollie and James. How you doing, guys?
How do? All good. Thank you very much, Lee.
Nice to see you.
You guys formed in 2019. Before that, James, were you doing music before you were a Stonx?
So yeah, we've both been producing for the majority of our lives in one form or another. We actually met in college. What year would that have been? Like 2007 or something. So we went to college together doing music technology. So we've both been mucking around indoors for how long now each?
15 years.
Yeah, about 15 years each before we actually got it together and decided to do anything like solidified. So we were just sort of like, you were doing.
I've been a session musician. Yeah. I've been doing bands, session work, a lot of metal and rock stuff. Since those college days, I was playing in bands then right the way through.
Yeah.
I recorded your band a few years before Stonx.
Yeah. I used to play in like a really, really heavy like grindcore band. So Ollie actually ended up recording some of that. That was pre-Stonx, wasn't it? So that was like 2017 or something. So we've both been sort of farting around with it for a while. Him with a little more seriousness than me. I was definitely more of a hobbyist up until the sort of Stonx period. I loved making music, but I wasn't really directing it anywhere. I was just sort of making it for my own gratuity, really. But yeah, you've been in bands, etc.
Yeah, I've been doing bands. We used to run our label we had a band called Shell Shock UK doing drum and bass metal back in early 2000s.
Oh, wow.
Electric drum kit, the full works. When Ben did that set the other week with High Octane, that I really wanted to make it down to that. That was hitting some big nostalgias in my heart. But long time drum and bass and metal fans, basically.
His band were sort of quite well renowned in the local area. So I think even before we met at college, I was probably watching his band on stage at like the local metal gigs and stuff with all the grungers way back in the day when that was still a thing. Yeah. So yeah, we've sort of been intertwined for a while, and but Stonx is probably the most serious thing that we've done so far in our musical careers, despite the experience behind it.
Yeah, for sure.
So that really does explain a lot where your sound comes from then. It is quite rock and metal and drum influenced, isn't it?
Definitely. Definitely.
And you mentioned grindcore there as well. I mean, this is a genre that I came across on the session around 2005. Some crazy music there. Any thoughts of incorporating some grindcore into drum and bass?
Well, it's kind of difficult. I mean, there's definitely elements of metal that we're bringing into the music at the moment, but once you start trying to chuck a blast beat, I mean, we love our snares, but that might be slightly too many snares for a Neurofunk song. So I don't know. As we get more comfortable with our sound, we're definitely letting more and more metal.
We're exploring more and more of the getting that metal side into it in our productions. I don't know quite grindcore. I don't want to end up
pig squealing.
Igor and Venetian snares kind of crazy down that path.
Yeah, I feel like
I never know. You never know.
Could be a side project one day that definitely leans into that. I wouldn't mind hearing some more pig squeals in Neurofunk. I think that could be a bit of fun, especially if you tune them and turn them into a bass.
Maybe, I don't know if you've heard this grindcore tune, but it's I Want My Grindcore, and the backing tune is I Like to Move It. Have you heard that one before?
I don't think I've heard that one.
I can picture it though.
Maybe that could be the next breakdown on the Stonx track. There you go. put my commission in the
A
post
mashed
on that
up
one.
genre bootleg kind of bonanza thing.
Yeah. So Ollie, obviously the label started, as you said, in 2019, once you both got your shit together and decided to become a duo. Early days of the label, were there any struggles coming through, and were you guys still learning the process of producing the music, or did you wait until you'd actually nailed it before starting a label?
So the label for us was never meant to be a serious thing. It was just, we started it on DistroKid, and it was just the one artist plan. We just thought, we're making this music. Why should we wait for anyone else to pick us up? Let's just do it. I had experience from running the label, metal record label, back in early 2000s. So I kind of knew about CD Baby. I knew about ISRC codes and promo lists. Been a good few years out of the game, but I knew the terms. I knew what to do, what to look at. I think probably 2011, 2012, I did a music business course at ICMP, Kilburn in London. So it's always the kind of general knowledge has always been there. But it was like, well, I know how to get our stuff distributed.
Yeah.
We didn't know really about advertising. That's something that you took on.
Yeah, that's something that I learned, sort of like the sort of campaign marketing side of things was something I picked up quite early on. But to bring it back around to the point with the sound, I feel like when we started, we felt like we knew what we were doing production wise, and we were sort of outputting, you know, our best quality at that point. But I also think that despite the fact that we're still happy with the stuff that we released earlier, there's been a huge amount of learning in that time as well.
Say not just running the label, but the production, as you asked. Our production is definitely. We started the label and we're like, well, if we're going to do this, let's release every month.
Yeah.
Let's like keep. We were happily writing music together for about a year before we started the Stonx project. So we were like, right, we can do this. We do enjoy doing this together.
Yeah.
Let's make this a thing, and let's just get these releases out. So it was December 2019 that we started. So basically 2020.
That's when Banging came out, yeah.
Tactical Bass Response Unit was our first two-track
I still like
EP.
the name of that.
And we did a release every month until I think September 2020.
Yeah.
Was when we released on Boss was the first label to pick us up. So we didn't have a release for our own label that month.
Yeah,
it would
have been the first time in a while. So we were kind of just grinding our skills with those monthly releases in the very early days. And then, of course, we jumped on a couple of production Patreons and took some lessons from some sort of bigger names within the industry to really kind of fine-tune the sound and get it sounding to the quality that it is now.
Yeah, I'd say modernizing our techniques, because
that was definitely it. Yeah,
we learned early 2000s. We were one of the last classes in our college to actually cut tape. We actually edited and spliced some tape together. So not saying that we have crap outdated techniques, but we definitely needed a little nudge
just to bring it up to where it is now. Yeah.
Oh, good. So back when I got into drum and bass, I've explained this before on a few shows, but I came from like a gabba background, hardcore and gabba, not the metal, but like the happy hardcore scene and things like that. And it was a natural progression for me to jump on board with the hard end drum and bass, Freak Recordings, Dylan, Counter-Strike, Current Value. So I'm quite surprised you guys have jumped straight into the Neurophone, because that came after for me as I started to appreciate drum and bass. Do you have any love for that sound, the good old barcode recordings and things like that?
We were definitely thrashing out Line Wax and Current Value in my old Peugeot 106, interchangeably with Pantera and Rage Against the Machine. That
goes hand in hand, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah,
it always was. I really didn't see any difference. Not so much the hardcore, but I listened to Anger Fist and.
Well, this is where I sort of come
going
from.
Into the goth side of it as well, like Combi Christ, and for us, I don't think there's really ever been much of a difference between these genres.
No, it's all just heavy,
hard.
fast. Yeah, I love a bit of Anger Fist. I come from quite a big free partying background, so obviously there's a big emphasis on sort of like the harder ends of techno, moving into hardcore, etc. So I listen to a fair bit of gabba, probably in it like mixed in with the metal, etc. That all came before drum and bass for me. Like I had some friends that were really into their Anger Fist and DJ Noise Kick and like speedcore and stuff like that. I still love chucking a bit of it on if I want to abuse myself. So yeah, there's that background in it as well.
Well, it seems a lot of that drum and bass today as well that is mixed in with all the Gabba raves over there. But I had no idea that you did that as well. Obviously, there's something else we've got in common. I'll probably send you some of my tracks over from my old hardcore label, Bedlam, as well, and see what you think, because I was just full of. We basically were heavily influenced in Dutch hardcore, so all of our label was like new bootleg Dutch hardcore stuff. So you probably love that, and I'm sure you'd think of a way of dropping some in your drum and bass sets if you're anything like me.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Yeah, we want to get as crossbreed as possible, really. So like, send any of that over. It's all that good heaviness. I think the first thing I wanted to do when I got to college was start bit crushing kicks, basically, to get that Gabba sound. So yeah, that was sort of like, you know, the beginning for me.
So each of you then, who, if you were to look at the dark end of drum and bass and Neurofunk, tell me one producer from each side, from both of you, who you'd class as your favourites, maybe.
It's hard. Like, I'm a big fan of Current Value. I have been for a long time. More towards the neurofunky end rather than like the experimental dark drum and bass. Like, I absolutely love Gydra's sound. I love. So there's so many. The problem is I just love neurofunk. Like, I just love. I find it, especially when we're doing Stonx cast and stuff. I find there's about one tune in 100 that I'm like, oh, maybe this isn't my thing, and the rest of it I just gag for. So it's kind of difficult to like actually break it down to one particular artist. I find myself listening to some of the neuro experimental stuff from producers like A-Way and stuff like that. So they've been some really good finds. But yeah, Current Value, Lime Wax and stuff is probably still the favourite. And then Gydra and Teddy Killers are still smashing it, aren't they?
What about you, Ollie? What about from the dark drum and bass and, of course, the most recent Neurofunk?
So most recent, I would just big up to Teddy Killers the whole way. I'm like a massive TK fanboy, been on their Patreon for a long time. You'll always find me on the feedback and on all of their streams, chatting to Anton, and Greg's absolutely amazing. On the Discord. So for me, the new school, they've really been, I think, putting the work in, you know, gates open, they're happily giving out the knowledge, and really like, for me, I think they've done a lot more than they realize for the new neurofunk scene.
Yeah, sure.
Going back, it's Noisier. It was just Noisier were the ones that did it for me. I loved Current Value, I loved Lime Wax. Not whenever a Noisier track came on, that was my pants down.
And I was like that for Spore as well.
Spore, yeah, is another one really.
Well, my first real experience of I Love Drum and Bass from Not was, and I said this to the Neuroheadz boys, he was going to the end, and the lineup was Noisier, Spore, Face, Panacea, and Dylan, all on one night. So I walked out of the end a changed man, as you can imagine.
I missed the end, man. I kept going when it was the Den as well, and it was still pretty decent even then. I love that club.
That surround sound system, isn't it? All around the walls. Absolutely phenomenal. So going back to the label then, and obviously Stonx Music starting, you guys were producing on your own label for a couple of years until finally getting a track signed on Drevobos, I believe it is, Drevobos?
Yeah, it's Drevobosh. We had such a nightmare pronouncing it straight off. I think it's Drevobosh with a bit of a, I think that's that, but I don't know why I think that. I don't think I've heard anyone say it.
Where's the label from? Where is it from,
they're Russian.
The label? They're Russian. Oh wow, that's quite hard when you're speaking to Russian. I found. I mean, I've spoken to Russians with labels and producers, and it's a long affair, isn't it? Obviously, with the language barrier. So, was it quite swift getting that signed up, or was it kind of a lot of chats?
No, it was pretty fluid. Obviously, the global situation started making things a little bit harder afterwards, but it's very nice to know that those connections are still going on. We still speak to the boys over at Drevobos, and they're really decent. They're still outputting some really good stuff. Anton's a great guy.
We managed to release one of his songs last year on our
we did
our first compilation. We just was like, we'd love to, you know.
I need to check the label. I've spoke to another artist who's actually released with them. He's actually got a forthcoming release on Dirtbox. His name's Noise Souls from Argentina.
Yeah,
absolutely phenomenal.
We crossed paths with them with Xylo Records as well. I think they did a release of Xylo.
That's right.
And they were in our yesterday Stonx cast actually, because
we dropped that
obviously that's your promo, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's basic as hell.
Problem.
Their stuff. They've got a really cool, like very organic sound. Do you know what I mean? I know they use a lot of like actual recorded animals and stuff like that, but yeah, it's
you could hear noise you're playing some of their tracks, couldn't you? Easily.
Yeah,
with it's a bit deeper, it's not tear out, but it's definitely got the crunch and the dance floor vibe to it, hasn't it? That tracks like Brundle Fly and things like that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
But back onto Stonx, the first time I heard of you guys was, funnily enough, on Neuroheadz in the Primitive Terror track last year. Absolutely phenomenal track, something I was smashing out in my sets. How did the collaboration with Neuroheadz come about?
Oh man, it was so funny.
Yeah.
We
we're so dumb.
We're so dumb. Instagram has multiple inboxes.
Yeah.
We run a Discord server, which is we started in 2020 with the lockdowns and everything, which is a production help server and a place for producers to chat and hang out. One of our producers that is a great friend of ours, Syndicate, we've got upcoming release from him. He had a message from Neuroheadz. He was like, I've got some message on Instagram from some UK guys. I don't know if you've heard of them or whatever. And we hadn't heard of them. You know, they just.
We were like, how did we miss this?
And we were like, we didn't get a message. Why did you get a message? This is really weird. Like, oh well, you know, yeah, talk to them. I'm sure whatever. They did actually message us about 2 months earlier.
Yeah, but we'd left it in the requests box because we were so like, when you're starting out on social media, it's such an echo chamber that the only people filling up the requests inbox are like spammers and stuff. So we stopped looking at it for a while. And then I was like, how have we missed the boat on Neuroheadz? These guys seem really organized. They seem like a really powerful force for UK drum and bass. And I was going to Ollie being like, I feel a bit sad, to be honest. I don't know how we've been left out. And I looked in the request box and I was like, oh, right, we didn't. I'm just an idiot. So yeah, it was just one of
straight back, just like, guys, we're so sorry. We've not been ignoring you. Like Instagram, it's totally our fault.
We're old, social media, sorry.
And,
well, it sounds like it was worth the wait. Obviously, that track did cause some waves, didn't it? I believe it did chart as well. So a lot of people have obviously been playing that. Back onto Stonx music then. You guys seem to have built your own little stable of artists as well, with some very heavy and very neuro-y recent music that's been coming out. That's definitely been part of my sets. Can you tell us about some of the artists you're building yourselves?
So like we said, we never started with the idea of let's get a label, let's help all these other artists out. Let's, you know, we just wanted to get a platform for our music, and our kind of thoughts were, when it's good enough for other labels, we can dissolve Stonx music and we'll just, you know, be like other artists and release our music, you know, wherever we do.
Do you ever find it hard to separate yourself as an artist and a label manager as such? Because obviously that's two very different hats to wear. As an artist, you're pushing yourself, but as a label, you've got to look after your artists and you've got to make sure you're pushing them as well.
Yeah. So I'll just jump back to where I was talking about Syndicate a minute ago. He was the first one for us to release someone else, a different artist that wasn't us. We'd been talking to him on our Discord. We met him through a remix competition that we ran. And he's just a really nice guy. He's really making some amazing music, and we really liked it. And he said, I want to release some stuff. What should I do? Where should I send it? What should I do? And we were like, well, we have a label. I can do that. If that's what you want to release music, we have the ability to do that now. There's no point you buying a distro kit and like sorting all that shit. Like we can do it. I'll do it for you. And he was like, oh yeah, that sounds cool. So then we had a long discussion that was like, are we going to run a label? Is that going to be a thing we do? For these reasons that you just mentioned, you know, we're trying to push Stonx as our artists. Do we have the time and effort and energy to put, you know, to do people justice? I don't want to just sign songs and off you go. So the Discord is a big part of our community and our label and how it works. And it's the one thing that I think when we decided we are going to push it, it's because we have some amazing artists, Syndicate, Scorpion. They're the two main ones really that in the early days were in our Discord, helping everyone, giving anyone who comes back, giving them proper professional feedback, support for artwork, saying when things look good or not, and just having, you know, a team there. And we spoke to these guys. We're like, look, if you want releases, we can legitimize this label. At this point, we were still on DistroKid, just running it through whatever pay monthly thing. And we said, look, we'll contact distributors. We'll set this up properly. We'll get on Beatport if it's something you guys want to do. Yeah. And I'd really say that's the start of the Stonx family.
Yes,
So,
definitely.
I took my knowledge from, I like went digging through my old folders from 2012 of the music business course, got the basic contract out, and I read through it. It's like, yeah, okay, yeah. And we made our contracts, you know, doing all the things you got to do, 50-50, but put a big emphasis on the fact that this is a family. You're part of the Stonx family now. This isn't, I don't want to just release your song and away you go. I want to talk to you every day. I want you to be in our Discord. I want you to want to talk to us. I want to know what you're having for dinner.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how we've run it, really. It's only the last few months that we've been getting messages, unsolicited messages from other artists, other people that have kind of seeing what we're doing. They're obviously impressed about how we're pushing our artists. And I'd say we're selective, not from a musical point of view, like, oh, the music's not good enough or anything.
Yeah.
If someone sends us an email straight away that I'll release our tunes, it's like, cool, lovely to meet you. Do you want to join our Discord, or like, let's chat,
it's definitely community focused over just a meritocracy quality wise. I think it's like we take a lot of time to sort of know our artists. I think that's one of the main things is we don't want that company barrier between us and our artists. It's just, you know, it's a group of people, much like you were saying just before the interview, just lifting each other up and just all shooting for the same basic goal, which is just make banging tunes and get it out to as many ears as possible, really.
Absolutely. It does seem like we've all got obviously a core of artists as well. I mean, it shows there's enough artists to be going round, there's enough music to be going round, and like I said earlier on, it definitely feels like we're creating our own UK scene now, doesn't it, with these labels?
Yeah, it's an amazing thing. Obviously, Neurofunk's probably not the most popular type, or hasn't been in the past popular type of D&B in the country. Obviously, a lot of people go for jump up in this country, which is great, and there's a lot of deeper stuff. But I really feel like there is a dawning for UK Neurofunk at the moment. And obviously, when we're seeing artists from our label getting played on like Neuropunk radio and stuff like that, now it's
Scorpion was on Vision.
Yeah, Scorpion was on Vision. Obviously, it's crazy that like it seems like the world's starting to take notice of this tiny little thing that we were all doing from our bedrooms during lockdown. Like it's like the world's starting to wake up and be like, oh, there's some UK Neurofunk going on. This is decent. So yeah, it's kind of mind blowing actually.
Yeah, it's even got some of obviously the Europeans taking heed of it. I don't know if you noticed when Neuroheadz came third in the new label, Jade actually gave them a shout out on his Eat Brain page, didn't he, on Facebook? You see that?
To see Jade taking notice is humbling at the least, isn't it? Like, it's just insane.
And if he's seen the label, he's definitely seen the artist. So you know that obviously he's under the radar there. So moving on then, I want to talk about some of your social media activity. Obviously, you guys have got some very high engagement. You're very much on the ball, like myself, in trying to create content for the label and knowing that's how you gain an audience. You've got the best D&B, is it proper D&B or best D&B podcast?
Yeah, it's the best D&B, best. Oh God, I can't say it now.
You can't say it. It's not just me. Yeah. So obviously tell me a little bit about some of the content that you're putting out and that you're going to be putting out in the future as well for the label.
I mean, recently it's just been me screaming about things on Reels. We seem to have found our little niche, which is just me acting as sort of unchained, as close to the edge as realistically I am in my day-to-day life. And that seems to be getting the highest engagement at the moment. Is just I think what people are appreciating at the moment is that breakdown of the wall between the artist and the fan on social media. So I think one in particular, I was recovering from wisdom tooth surgery the other week, and Syndicate had some new music out, and obviously like I'm sitting here and I was like, I still need to go on and shout about it. So one of our highest engaging posts the other day is just me with big old hamster cheeks being like, look, you still need to listen to this music. It's great. My face hurts. It's just utter accessibility. I think there's just no I'm not a cool person, do you know what I mean? Like I'm never gonna have that like edgy person. We're both like cardigan wearing, like shuffling about old men really. So like I just try and I don't want people to meet me and find anything different to the way they've seen me on social media, which is me just being like, oh, the world's on fire, but music, listen to this banger. Like, so that would probably be the social media presence in a nutshell.
Yeah, I'd say honesty. Honesty is the point. You know,
what is the handles on Facebook and Instagram, just for anybody who wants to check these stupid videos out?
No, we are Stonx_music on Instagram. We are at Music Stonx on Twitter, and I think we're just at Stonx Music on Facebook. So you can find us. But if you just search Stonx, we're getting to the size now where we'll just turn up in their basic search engine as well. So just hit STONX, and eventually you'll find someone who looks like me shouting and screaming, and you know you've hit the gold.
I usually end up launching my phone across the room when I come across one of our reels now.
You've got your own accounts on block there, have you, Ollie?
Yeah. Sometimes I wish I could block myself in real life, to be honest.
See less of.
See less of my face.
Yeah, there you go. So that does bring me to the next question then as well. What the fuck is a Stonx?
It's just a meme, innit?
Yeah, basically.
So you know
You've
that
turned it into a verb, basically, haven't you? Because you can be stonxed, you can feel stonksy, you can get a bit stonksish. If you want to go to the Stonx to get a stonx, you can get stonxed on that. Is this what it is? Is it just a new verb, basically?
Essentially, it's what did Phil say the other day? Is they've made it synonymous for when they like something. So like if they hear a good song, they'll be like, that's stonksing. But the genesis of the term was from that meme, and I think it's about crypto or something, really, where you've got that really like plain-faced mannequin-looking guy with the arrow going up. And once we started triggering the algorithm on Spotify, our graphs started to look like that. So it's just basically a play off that meme, but with an X instead of a K, so we're a bit cooler.
We spent over a year, that first year, 2019, we spent thinking of our name.
Well, we're going to be cool.
Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, we were going
that was one of them.
With it. Why was I going to be called Sodom and Gomorrah? Like...
we had a list of about 20 different names, and Stonx was on there quite early on, but you know, we didn't want to be linked in with the crypto stuff. Like it's nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, you're not one of these Twitter influencers just putting out
NFT.
I'm not trying to sell you an NFT. Like.
Yeah, get away.
But it was on there, and then one of the Googles was a military term.
Oh yeah, it was an artillery barrage.
Artillery barrage, and we were like, that kind of describes our music as well.
Yeah. So when we mixed that,
definitely artillery. Yeah.
It's just a nice battering, really. Yeah, it's kind of what we wanted the music to be.
We mixed that with the meme culture of it, and then it was just us writing it down. We were writing down all these different names, looking at different logos, and we really spent a long time like, what looks good? What do we want to be known as? What Sodom and Gomorrah was not a good idea.
Well, that's the thing. We wanted something. Yeah, I don't know why we went for that at first, because the idea was like short and snappy, and then we were like Sodom and Gomorrah, which just isn't. So I think the fact that it's just a single syllable, like it's just Stonx, like everyone could say that and get on with it. It's like Taxi.
Sodom and Gomorrah, definitely. I don't know. The first thing that comes to mind is people getting raped on Game of Thrones. That's the first thing I could think of, basically, when I hear that.
I'm kind of glad that's not what's associated with our music. You never really want to leave with something like that.
I'd like to find the book though and find some of those other names that we had, because we spent a year. We spent 11 months until we finally.
Yeah, I can't remember any of the.
Yeah, we're definitely delving into the breakcore territory of names there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Go down that route. Like anything will do as long as it sounds absolutely ridiculous. Type of name. So the reason we're here today, and we're going to finish off with this, is obviously the Neuroheadz Heads Up album that's just been released exclusively at the moment on Beatport and Spotify. I have to say, guys, I mean, looking at the whole album, and I was talking to the Neuroheadz guys, I was talking to the boys. I'm one of the Neuroheadz guys now. I've got to stop saying it like that. I was talking to the boys earlier, and for me, Wicked World, it's hard to pick a favorite on this album. It's just full of absolute fucking nanny slappers, as I like to say. But great. Wicked World is the track that is spending the most amount of time in my sets at the moment. 100%, 100%. How did this track come around is my first question. But I also want to know, because I've been fucking looking everywhere, where that sample is from, because I've got an inkling it's some kind of fucking Travis Scott 6ix9ine mumble rap thing. I can't find it anywhere.
So we'll start with the sample. So basically it's a song that I kind of just wrote for a joke in a day, and I think it was just for like it was for a production stream or something, and I just wanted to find something. It was right when like the pandemic was sort of at its height. It was written quite a while ago, and it was just when everything was looking like it was falling apart, and everyone just seemed like they were screaming at that point. The sample is actually just off freesound.org. So
Oh wow.
I can't remember what I just go onto Freesound and just search like screaming, insanity, like
no way.
death, pain, and then like it was
scroll.
I think it was a rapper doing some practice vocal
There's about
takes.
Yeah, it's definitely got that kind of 2020, 2021 like Travis Scott, you know, the drop on the mumble rap type of stuff where they get angry and it drop. It's got that vibe to it, definitely.
So yeah, so it was just something that I pulled off Freesound, and obviously now that the track's been released and something, I'm going to hunt down the guy who uploaded it and see if he wants crediting or something, because Freesound's obviously all Creative Commons, but because he kind of made that track, like he gives it that vibe with that like unhinged, the world's falling apart. Like it's been a nightmare last 3 years for humanity as a whole, hasn't it? So I just felt like that sample just captured the way everyone must be feeling deep down inside about the way that we look like we're going as a species. So I'm going to try and track him down and actually see if I can, like, because I want to credit him, and I don't know his name beyond his username. Do you know what I mean? I just downloaded it.
Or if the username is even the guy that...
Well, yeah, we don't even know if we don't even know if the guy that uploaded it is even the guy that's singing it. So we need to do some digging to try and find this dude. Maybe even just to check if he's all right, actually.
He might not be all right.
It sounded like he was going through some stuff. So like, I want to track him down. And then I wrote it in a day, and then it just sat there. Yeah, it sat there for a while, and then some people mentioned it in the Discord, like, "Where's that stupid Wicked World song you wrote like ages ago?" And I was like, "Oh, what? Well, people actually want that. Yeah, all right, cool." So I sent it over to him, and we did a lot of polishing work on it to get it finished into the format it is now.
I think the only thing that really remains is the vocal. Everything around it kept changing. We're like, how can we got the vocal tidied up enough so it's catchy, and then there's that build-up bit where he's just unhinged screaming. That we kept nearly getting rid of that, but it just lost so much vibe.
Yeah, the moment we got rid of that, we were like, because it's quite a basic song if you actually listen to it. It's basically like a 2-note wonder. And when we took him away, we were like, what would we even be able to fill this with? So it came back in, and we're really glad with the way it's probably one of our favorite things that we've written, even though it's like, I think it's also like the dumbest song we've written.
But you can take, like I say, you can take of it however that sounds to you. Like I said, if it was like kind of the struggles of the pandemic, however that is, for me, it's just like a big anticipated drop. So I can't take much away, like you said, from the pandemic, because my pandemic was just full of nappies because I had my first child. So unfortunately, it wasn't a wicked world. It was a bit of a shitty world for me. So a pissy world and sleepless nights world and things like that. But yeah, for me, that drop, it definitely works, especially on the dance floor. And I'm so happy it didn't come out in the pandemic when nobody could have fucking danced to it.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We were that one for a good while. We tested that one out at Brainrave and at Neuroheadz in December, and
it just
we were still tweaking it in December, but yeah, everyone absolutely lost it.
But I like it as well because people go mad for it, but they're all laughing as well, and I like it when it's like, you know, we make this like heinously heavy music, so it's nice to bring a bit of humor with it as well and not take it too seriously sometimes, because a lot of stuff we write is quite seriously based,
dark, broody, you know.
So it's kind of fun just to see people like hear that drop and just sort of just piss themselves laughing on the dance floor. Like, you feel like you're making people's night better that way, don't you?
Well, I've been dealing with a promo for that this week, and it's gone out to a lot of big names, and it does seem to be getting some good feedback on the album, more so than, as I say, than you'd ever expect. So yeah, top track on there. I think it's going to be destroying dance floors all summer, that one. Absolutely.
Fantastic. We would love that. Yes. We'll definitely be shouting it out any gig we're playing.
Absolutely, mate. Well, that is definitely going to be one of those tracks that probably helps you to elevate to the next level as well. So, you know, keep making bangers like that. I think that's what people want to hear for sure.
We'll keep that in mind. Nice, unhinged, easy, simple bangers from us. We can do that.
Lovely. Well, that's all we got time for, guys. I really appreciate your time with this. It's really beautiful to actually make your acquaintance and speak to you properly in person. Let's do this again sometime. Absolutely.
Awesome. It won't be the last time we speak. It will be regular from this point, mate.
Peace out to all the heads out there.
Nice one. Enjoy yourself.
Thanks to the Stonx boys. Cheers.
Right. Nice one. Cheers, Lee.
Okay, the next guest on the Talking Heads show today to promote the Heads Up LP. He's one of the artists with a track on the album. It's an absolute fucking stonker. This is Josh Jestah. How you doing all the way from Bristol, Josh?
I'm good, thank you very much, mate.
Brilliant. Thank you for your time today, mate. Really appreciate you taking it out to have a chat with us and obviously promote this album. So you're based in Bristol, obviously one of the major hubs of drum and bass in the country, probably in all of Europe as well. What were your come-ups in, obviously, in the music scene? Was it drum and bass to start with, and how did you get into it?
Yeah, so yeah, Bristol hub of drum and bass. That's actually why I moved here, probably like 8 years ago. Before that, I actually grew up in High Wycombe, where I went to Amersham College and did music tech there, and that's kind of where I really started producing. Before then, I kind of messed around a bit in Fruity Loops, and I think I actually got into dubstep back in the day when I was a wee boy. So yeah, no, it's all started as me messing around with Fruity Loops, trying to make dubstep, and then I think, you know, the natural progression from there was onto the proper drum and bass music, and that's around the same time that I actually started taking production seriously, moving to the college. And then from there, you know, after I sort of got a grasp with it, they said, well, why don't you go to uni and carry it on? And that's actually where I came to Bristol. And it wasn't because of the uni, just because I knew Bristol was a hub for the music. So it was more for that than the actual course. So yeah, man. And then since then, you know, it's been a long road. It's been about 10 years now since I actually first started. And, you know, it could have definitely been done quicker, but yeah, I've had a lot of things going on the side as well. So, and even more so now, it's starting to branch out into other things. But yeah, it's always really been a core of drum and bass for me. Definitely my, you know, passion. But yeah, man, I'm excited for the future. I'm really starting to take it seriously now. So, and I'm really happy to be part of the Neuroheadz label, where I can actually put all that proper neuro stuff out there, which I've been sitting on for a little while, actually.
Ah, excellent. So we can definitely hear some more in the pipeline coming soon then, yeah?
Yes, absolutely. Got 2 more tracks finished, actually, ready to go. They're in the oven right now, ready to be released.
Yeah, and I've noticed, obviously, looking that there's some Neuroheadz specials on the way as well, from what I can see.
Yes.
Excellent work. So you say you got into producing, you started off on Fruity Loops of all places. Obviously, a lot of people do frown when you say Fruity Loops to start with, but there's nothing to frown about with that. Spore actually made music on Fruity Loops for all of his early releases, if you remember, and quite a few other producers as well. Do you still use Fruity Loops, or have you moved on to a different door now?
Yeah, that was the main reason I picked Fruity Loops, because I knew Spore used it at the time, and Spore was like probably my first, actually it was the first drum bass track I heard, was that Spore remix of is it the Prototypes? I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, but I know which one you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tear out.
Yeah, but now I use Ableton. I've been using Ableton for the last 8 years, and now I'm kind of hardwired into it. There's no way I could go to any other door. Everyone always says it looks a bit backwards to them, but I just find it so easy to navigate, and it's so quick to work with audio, especially. So yeah, Ableton the way for me, man, 100%.
Yeah, it's a lovely program. I still use Ableton myself. I'm a Cubase person long term, but yeah, there's a lot of ease in actually creating on Ableton, isn't there? It does make things a little bit faster than most other doors, I think.
Absolutely, yeah, perfect.
So you said obviously it took you 10 years to get to your first release, and from what I can gather, that was the Main Audio release on the label Main Audio about 2016, wasn't it? So was that your actual first release? Because that was drum and bass, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't 10 years from my first release, but it's been about 10 years up until this point. It was a good 5 years before that Main Audio release, which was, yeah, the first actual fully distributed release. Yeah, that was a couple of tracks I did. My style was very different then to what it is now, but, you know, I was still kind of learning the ropes of what my sound is and how I can make it. And it was very much like a make within my means rather than what I actually wanted to do.
But the quality was there. Obviously, before I'd heard of you, I'd seen your releases on some very established labels like Delta 9 and Handsome. Now, they don't just sign anything, those labels, do they? They're really high quality labels. So they must have seen that you were one for the future, definitely, about that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Delta 9 was a big one for me. Diego is such a great label manager, and I was sitting on those 2 tracks for ages, wondering what to do with them, and I noticed Delta 9 were really pushing these sort of like up and coming producers with proper like advertising and management. So it was a no-brainer to go with Delta 9 really, and that was probably one of my most successful releases so far, especially with the help that Diego had putting it on Spotify playlists. It just made the Emulsifier track that I did with Creatures blow up. And the same for Handsome, like great label for up and coming producers, which they've actually outgrown that now. They're a serious label within the neuro industry. But yeah, that EP I did for Handsome, I put a lot of time into that, and that was my first proper neurofunk release. And after I'd finished that, I knew that I really wanted to go in this neuro direction, because for me, the tracks that I output with that kind of genre is just such a night and day difference. I can tell it's like the sound that I actually want to go for.
I think also with neurofunk, the fan base, we've spoken about this loads with Ben and Mike and Neuroheadz. It's got a punk-like following, and what I mean by that is that it's a very loyal following. If you look at punk music in the 70s in the UK, that following was diehard to that music. They dressed it, they felt it, they went to every single club that played that music, and that's what the neurofunk fans are like, aren't they? It's very uncensored, balls to the wall. Here we are, straight in your face, and you got the fan base that are very vocal around that as well. So you can blow up really well in that industry, in that genre, as long as you've got the following behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely love that. And it's kind of tricky because in the UK, maybe it's not as popular as it is elsewhere in the world. Here we have a very like almost garage based sound where it takes from like the UK garage and grime influence, and I guess that's just a culture out here. But you can tell that over the world there's like a real, like, as you say, hardcore following. I've been to like Letterroll and seen people pasted with Eat Brain tattoos, and like I just love that shit, man. It's so good.
Yeah,
And
music does something to you, doesn't it? To get you on to face your body like that. But it is, you're right. Obviously, the culture in terms of like hard end music across Europe is second nature. I mean, look at Gabba in Holland and things like that. In the UK, it is a little bit more pocket, but that's why we're here today, isn't it, Josh? Me, you, the Neuroheadz boys, we want to change that in the UK, and we obviously want to bring this to the forefront, which I think is 100% possible. It's about just reaching that audience, isn't it?
Yeah, man. And I would say that the UK sound does have an influence in my neuro as well. It's very, I wouldn't say it's like I fit directly into the Euro neuro. That's a bit of a tongue twister. Euro neuro box. I still try and get that like techie kind of minimal element in there a bit, because it's just been influenced on me by the surroundings, I guess. But yeah, I feel like I've got a happy balance, and every tune that I make is getting a little bit closer to what I think the pinnacle of that would be. It's refining my sound at every tune that I release. Just gets a little bit closer to what my end goal is, I think.
Yeah. And your name Jestah obviously sounds very fun. Your music's very fun. Where did this name come from, and why that name?
Yeah, before Jestah I was actually called Basic, which is a very basic name on the run. I was young back then, and then when the time came that I decided to change it to something a little bit more original, I did actually want to go with Jestah spelled properly, but I just thought, be a little bit more unique and searchable. And I thought there's got to be a DJ out there called Jestah already. But I don't know, it just came naturally now. I think I even put a status up on Facebook saying, what shall my name be? And someone said Jestah, because my name's Josh. And I was like, just added a little E in there. And I was like, oh, that's it, done. And it stuck.
There was a rave DJ in the mid to late 90s called Jestah. He used to play up north a lot at a night called Uprising. I don't know if you're familiar with hardcore and things like that in the UK, but yeah, he's long gone now, so you're safe. And I don't think he had the same spelling, so you're good. So the Neuroheadz link up.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got this track on the Heads album, absolutely phenomenal. How did it come about getting signed to Neuroheadz and having releases with those guys?
Well, I'd seen Neuroheadz about with their gigs at Loco Club, and like they've got their festival coming up later this year, which is going to be sick. But the actual tune coming to Neuroheadz came from, I have a good friend who actually MC'd at one of their nights in London. And he messaged me after the gig saying it was fucking great and I should hit these guys up. And I thought, well, I'm sitting on a Neuro track. I'll just send it to them and see what they think. And yeah, straight away it like clicked. And I'm really happy about it because I feel like there's quite a family vibe at the Neuroheadz label, you know, and I'm really committed to being part of something like that. You know, if it's working, I'm ready to just give everything to one label. I think it's that time. And you know, I'm hoping that out of this, you know, it can continue to grow and I can be part of like the live shows. Yeah, so simple as that really. And then since we've signed this one tune, we've been discussing the future with the new music that's unreleased, and yeah, it's exciting stuff.
Yeah, I'm very excited to get these releases out for you. Obviously, looking after the label, I've had a nice little sneak peek of what's to come, and yeah, very excited, Josh, with what's coming out there. But apart from that, DJing wise, label wise, we know you with Neuroheadz. Is there anything else on the horizon for 2023? What's the year looking like for you?
Yeah, well, as I say, you know, I haven't been DJing loads recently. I think since COVID, it's slowed down for me and I lost it a little bit, but now I'm starting to pick it back up. You know, I'm ready to really push it out this year. You can expect some local gigs in Bristol from me coming up. A lot of them are unannounced yet. Aside from that, you know, I'm ready to just really push the production of the music, and I'm hoping off the back of that, I can really make an impact in the live scene as well. So nothing to shout about just yet, but keep your ears open because there will be very soon.
Just a live show.
Yeah, trust me.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I have to get some dancers dressed up as court jesters and all of that. You got to do the whole shebang there, Josh. You got to go for it. Well, listen, mate, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate you finally getting on. Apologies for all the mishaps in terms of we're doing it now, but we got there in the end, didn't we? Finally.
No worries. It's all
Lovely.
good.
So again, you can catch Jester's track on the Heads Up LP. Absolutely massive Neurofunk banger. Josh, we'll speak to you again very soon. Thanks a lot, mate.
Nice one. Peace.
Next up on the Talking Heads podcast, we have a drum and bass bad boy all the way from Australia, but he's currently in the UK. It's Transforma. Neil, how you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, Lee.
Brilliant. Thanks for coming on the show today. Really appreciate your time, Neil. I know I've been bouncing you around all weekend, trying to slot you in to get this done. And yeah, finally we're here. We sat down. We can have a chat about your release on the Heads Up album. But also, I want to take us back to the beginning, your roots back in Australia. Whereabouts in Australia are you from originally then, Neil?
Originally come from Wollongong, which is an hour south of Sydney, but my family currently lives in the Gold Coast, so they've moved up to Queensland.
All right. What about drum and bass over there? Is there much of a scene from what you can remember back there and getting into?
There is, but it's very, very mainstream, I find.
Right. One of the things I found when I went to Australia was Goldie seemed to be quite a established name. He was there every other month from what I remember. I went there about 2013, 14 on a tour. And but yeah, I'd always see Goldie flyers for Australia. That's what kind of made me ring. Oh, there is drum and bass there.
Yeah, it's either mainstream like fluffy D&B or like deeper minimal stuff.
So definitely no Transformer, heads to the wall, Neurofunk then, from what you remember.
There has been before, yeah. There is promoters out there that do some like heavier nights, but it's just few and far between. Perth is actually quite good for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're quite good for the more underground sounds, aren't they? They used to have a lot of like gabber and hardcore and things like that as well, which I've talked about with some of the other guests today. So, but did you ever get to play in Perth?
I haven't played in Perth yet. That's the only state I haven't played over there.
Okay, hopefully that happens
Believe it or not.
when you go back pretty soon. So you came to the UK around what year was it when you moved to the UK?
Well, I lived in Europe first for a year and a half. So when COVID hit, I was in Holland. Stayed there till the end of 2020, and then moved over here at end of 2020.
Okay, okay. So what brought you to Holland and then the UK? What made you want to obviously hit those places of all the countries in the world?
I guess just pretty much following my music career. I mean,
Absolutely.
unfortunately, when I got to Holland, it was just COVID. So
Yeah, nothing much happening there at that time then, no.
no, like I played one show in Belgium to like 1,500 people, then the next weekend after, nothing for 18 months.
And where you're situated now in the UK, where are you living?
I was just staying with a mate in Norwich until I fly back. So
Oh, brilliant. Okay, that wouldn't happen to be our friend the fifth, would it?
yeah, it would.
Yes, Philip the fifth. Brilliant stuff. What a guy. And you've got some amazing collaborations, I believe, coming up with Philip as well, haven't you, in the coming months?
Oh yeah, we're on track 5 or 6 now.
Wow, excellent. I can't wait to hear those new ones, Neil. Let's take you back again just to where obviously it was all kicking off as a producer for you. So it seems like some of your first releases were around like the electro dubstep glitch. In 2012, you released on labels like Subace. Tell us about how you got into producing and how you got those track signs to those kind of labels.
Well, I started DJing first, and I was mainly just like dubstep and like mumba and things like that. But then I was just like, you know what? To take it to the next level, I'm gonna have to make my own music. So I got a copy of Ableton and started from there. Really, was making like bro steppy stuff for 2 years. Then I got into the glitch, and that was fun.
Was you still had a passion around that time though for drum and bass, and even when you was in Australia, was you making dubstep but you still wanted to do drum and bass? Was there any kind of nature like that?
I always wanted to give it a shot, but I'd never had the guts to at first. Just so much more difficult than anything else.
Yeah, it's
But
pretty daunting when you see people like Noise You Don't, you're at the top of that tree, really.
yeah. But yeah, like I just randomly tried one night and couldn't stop. So
And is that what obviously culminated in the release on Ammunition around 2015?
definitely, yeah. I started making like more drum and bassy, like drum steppy stuff around 2014. And then just went into neuro.
Just a natural progression for you, basically.
Yeah.
And some of your early releases, they were on some absolutely hard as fucking nails releases, weren't they? I mean, I was talking to the Stonx boys about this. You had releases on Future Sickness and Mind Tech, and you know those guys don't hold back. So you had some pretty hard end labels, obviously coming at you for tracks around that time, then, didn't you?
Yeah, that was weird. I mean, I think it was Mathieu or whatever his name is that runs Future Sickness that hit me up randomly, and I ended up putting Annihilate and Blood Money on that label.
Yeah, apt title tracks there, names for tracks to go on that label as well, isn't it? There was a lot of blood and things like that in the track titles. But yeah, definitely one of my all-time favorite labels, Future Sickness. But that moved on to a lot of really established Neurofunk labels, didn't it? I mean, when we look at like around that 2014 straight up to 2018, you had huge amounts of releases on Cause for Concern, Kill Tomorrow, Sinuous, Bad Taste, Korsakoff, Code Smell, Boom Slang in the States. There was a barrage of Transformer music, wasn't there? Were you just hitting a good flow around that time and just getting tracks out as fast as you could?
Yeah, well, I think it was 2017. After playing Let It Roll, I ended up having a release on Red Light, which I was quite close with Ed Octave, and that was where it all started for me. From Red Light to Cause for Concern, and then I think Bad Taste came after that. Vegas just randomly hit me up for tracks sometime.
Yeah, once somebody hears you on those labels, I guess it just kind of turns into an avalanche, doesn't it, of interest? You're not necessarily pitching your music out; they're actually coming to you then as well, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. And then I think it was 2020. I got my dream release on Blackout, my first
Brilliant.
one.
Yeah, I remember that one. I was absolutely hammering that release. Brilliant release. So is that the pinnacle for you, Blackout? Because around that time, you tended to kind of move into doing some techno as well under a new alias, Encode, wasn't it? Was Blackout the pinnacle for you and part of you moving into doing a bit of techno?
It's one of them, definitely. I mean, I'd love to release on Vision, so that's definitely a goal that I want to achieve. But yeah, like just experimenting with different sounds and styles and everything like that.
And your first release, it charted extremely well for somebody who'd literally not done techno before, jumped into it and had the first release. Didn't this like really cause a lot of waves in that techno scene as well?
Yeah, it started in the charts on the first or second day of release at like number 10, and then ended up at number 2 by like 4 days in.
Fantastic. Yeah, I remember it being an awesome release, and you sent a few clips across. What alias was it again? Just for obviously anybody listening that want to check it out. Are you all right with them checking that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been quite with that project at the moment, obviously, because I'm just hammering out the drum and bass, but there'll be more stuff in the future.
Brilliant. Brilliant. So obviously that brought you back, like we say, into drum and bass with a vengeance. And it looks like your first track back is the collaboration with our friend Tom Dropset from Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And that's going to be on the Heads Up LP. So how did obviously collaborating with Tom come around? And how did the connection with Neuroheadz happen to begin with to get this track?
Okay, so me and Tom like just met through obviously Facebook and social media and stuff, and we did our first collaboration, which ended up going on my EP on Korsakoff. And then we did a second one, which went on his EP on Abducted. So like we've done quite a few. We've got more coming as well. But we wrote Trigger Warning in 2021. It just couldn't really shop it anywhere. It was meant to go on Bass Rush, but nothing happened there. So
Bass Rush, that'd have been quite a huge release as well, wouldn't it?
yeah. So then he just hit me up and said that the Neuroheadz boys were keen on it, so I was down for that.
But you do have links with Neuroheadz. You do play for them quite a lot as well, don't you? How did those link ups come about?
Living in Bristol, I basically got an email from Ben just like telling me of a new Neuro night that he was running, and ended up being Prolix. So it was Prolix, me, and Conquest supposedly, but I don't think Maddie could make that.
Okay, that was that 2021, was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just went from there.
Excellent stuff. So yeah, Heads Up LP is out now. Came out Friday the 31st of March. Nearly got that wrong. I don't want to be saying that wrong on here. But yeah, obviously the track looks as though it's doing really, really well. I've been put in place to obviously manage the label now, and hopefully we get some big releases from you in the future on there as well. Which I do know there's a secret one that is in the pipeline, isn't there, on Neuroheadz?
Yeah, it's all finished. It's just got to basically sort art and release date and everything, but it features Neuroheadz' very own mic.
Yeah, Mike on the sesh as always, I believe. And yeah, that's my next job this week, to get that scheduled in and sorted out for the label.
Oh, sweet.
So what we'll leave on with this, Neil, again, thank you for your time. I know there's a trip imminent back to Australia, but there was a bit of a hiccup the other week, wasn't there? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, National Express, like I ended up getting a 2.5 hour delay and getting to Heathrow Airport late, so completely missed bag drop and therefore missed my flight. So I put in claims and everything, so we'll fingers crossed for that. But
Yeah, that's
yeah,
horrible state of affairs.
Heading back in 2 weeks tomorrow, but I'm probably only going to stay out there for a year or something.
Yeah, so you got your flight booked again, then you're ready to get out there and try and get a bit productive as well when you get out. Have you got your home set up as well, or are you just staying with family?
No, I've got a place set up and everything, so it's just going to be good to spend some family time, which I haven't really had in the last 4.5 years due to COVID.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, no, obviously around that time, not many people were seeing anybody, were they? So it's definitely
No.
been a long time. And I think you had a little bit of a holiday earlier last year, didn't you, to go and see the family as well in Australia?
Yeah, over Christmas, and which was really, really nice. And that just made me decide that I wanted to maybe spend another year out there before I actually make it permanently my home over this side of the world.
That's it. But nobody's stopping you either, are they, mate? Do you know what I mean? You can bounce backwards and forwards all the time, you know, as long as you can get those flights and not miss them due to National Express, you should be okay.
Yeah, this time though, I've got a direct bus from Norwich to Heathrow, so I don't have to go through London. So that makes it a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, just a little bit more prepared this time. Well, listen, Neil, thank you for your time with this. Really been great speaking to you. The track is fucking phenomenal. I know it's going to be doing well. Definitely one of the front runners on the album as well. Let's book something another time, do a bit more of a long haul chat if we can. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Maybe when you get to Oz and we can have a nice sunny background and some palm trees, beach or something like that. Yeah, rather than your kitchen.
Yeah.
No worries, mate. Thanks again, Neil. Have a good flight back to Australia and I'll speak to you soon, buddy.
Thanks for having me.
That's it. That's the end of the episode. So we hope you enjoyed it. We will be back very soon with some more interviews, talking about some more Neurofunk tracks coming out on the label and just seeing what's going on in the Neurofunk world altogether. If you do want to hit us up with any requests or any messages, you want to be on the show, you think you'd make a good interview, again, just hit us up on all the socials. You can get me on Lee UHF at neuroheadz.com and you can catch us on all the socials at Neuroheadz with a Z. See you soon, guys.
Against the wall, it's time to get criminal.